Hello, everyone. In today's video, we're going to go over how you can embed a Gavel workflow into your Softr website or application. So in my use case here, I have the website that I have built out using Softr. And what I want to do is have this DIY solutions page where different clients or customers can come to this page and purchase or use a free or paid workflow that I've built using Gavel. So let's say, for example, that I have one where it will tell someone which copyright application they should use from the copyright.gov website. So if they click on this, they're going to be taken to a page that has a directly embedded workflow from Gavel inside of that page. And then I had that page open up as a modal when it's clicked on. That person can directly interact with that workflow directly on this page here. I also have a list block here at the bottom, which has it to where somebody can filter by different tags or search for something in the search bar specifically, and it will filter through different workflows. Now, this section here is actually a combination of Softr and Airtable, which I can briefly show you, which has it to where this will open up into a page where you can have more information about a particular workflow, and they can still access it directly from there in a modal if you'd like. Now, if we go back to our DIY section here, and we go back to this one that I was mentioning at the beginning, where this is embedded directly into this page, we're going to start here. Now, the first thing that you would want to do is actually build out the workflow that you want to embed. So you would need a Gavel account for this. And in my case, I've created it to where I just have a couple of questions, and this isn't the actual workflow for this, which copyright application should I use? It's just for this demonstration. And in this one, I just have a couple of questions, and then I have a little bit of custom code here at the top that I've added in for some stylization to match my website. And I'll go deeper into how to do this so that you can have the buttons and the font and all of that match your website in a different video. But in this one is just to say that you would first need to set up whichever workflow that you want to have embedded into your website. That's critical because you're going to need the link for that particular workflow once you're done creating it. One thing I would suggest within your creation is to make sure that your settings are that you change the style with custom CSS to have the no header option. So if you go to your Gavel Learning Center, you can see this particular article on how to add custom styles with CSS. And all you need to do to take off the header, and what I mean by that is if you don't take off the header, it's going to have like a sign-in page and some other stuff. So let me just see if I can find one that has the header at the top. So it would have it to where there's a dashboard and a sign-in and your logo and all of that. That would appear here at the top. So if you want this to look really integrated within your website, you would want your header to be from the website, from Softr in this particular case, and then have your workflow not have a header. So like I said, all you need to do is actually go over to this article on custom styles with CSS and find the one that says no header. Then you can just copy this one and go into your particular workflow. In this case, let's say this DOB eligible test. Go into settings, and then you're going to say change style with custom CSS, and then just drop that link into there, save that, and then when you run this now, it's going to take that header off for you. Great. So once you have completed your workflow and you have updated your styling to where you can have no header, and you've maybe changed any coloring if you want to add different font styles or different button colors and so on, then the next step would be to go over to a different help article, which is how to embed on your site from the Gavel Learning Center. So I had fun going through each of these different code snippets to see which one I liked the best with Softr. And so you can see here that you can have just a regular iframe, or you can have this code here, or this one here, or this one here, or for a longer one, you can use this one here, and then they give you some examples. So what I found to be the one that works the best with Softr is actually this embed on Squarespace code here. And if we open this up and break it down a little bit, you'll see what we're actually doing is we have an iframe that starts here and then just ends right here. We need to add in our workflow URL here. And then we have some script going on here. And that we don't have to actually worry about this whole section here. All we need to worry about is putting our workflow into here. So if we go over to our dashboards, so let me just run over here and go into my dashboard here. And let's say that I want to use this workflow 1 push test. I can just grab that workflow link, go back into that code, drop that into that section where I had workflow URL. And then one more thing I want to show you after we get to that point is how to take off the frame border. So you'll see, for example, in the embed example here, there's like a border around this workflow. I'll show you what that looks like in Softr and then how to take it off as well. But you'll see that you can actually learn from what's around it to come up with these kind of creative solutions. So let's go into our Softr Studios to actually embed this. So if you have a Softr account, you would need to have either be on a trial of the paid version or actually have an upgraded paid plan in order to add in custom code. It's not available on the free plans. However, it's highly useful to have this feature, so it's worth upgrading in order to actually access the custom code features here. So what you would need to do in Softr to start this process is you would need to create a new page where you're going to have this particular workflow live or be embedded, for example. I like to have a little bit of context in front of or around the workflow itself so that when somebody opens it up, it looks pretty nice and integrated within the actual website itself. So this particular top section will mirror the section that looks here, right here, and then your workflow is here with the different stylizations and customizations. So what we'll do in the Softr Studio is create that top section here, which you can do by just going into adding a block, and then you can say static, and then you can come down to other, and then you can say simple text. And then if you wanted to add a background image, in my case, I created some custom background images using Canva. And then you can also just change the centering of this particular text, for example, and you can also change the color if you want to change it to, let's say, white, for example. You would just change this to 6S, and then that would change that. And then in my case, I just added a background image of the one I made in Canva like this. So that's how I was able to get this section here. Then for the section that actually has the custom code itself for the embed, you're going to say add block, you're going to go to static, and then you're going to come down to custom code, where you're just going to click on this where it says custom code block. Now you can open up this particular section so you don't have to scroll to the right for this. So you can say expand code. And then we're going to be able to see a lot better. So you can see a little prompt that says embed your custom code here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to paste in what I created from the one that I was showing you here. So I just took this and pasted it here. Now, sometimes it can be hard to read it when everything's on this line. So what we can do is actually just respace this a little bit so we can actually see what's going on. So I'm just going to move down where everything kind of ends, for example. So let's say you can see this script is here. You can see the end of the P. You can see the end of the div, for example. So I'm just going to rearrange this. So for demonstrations purposes, you can actually read this along with me so we can see it together. So I'm just going to show you, where does this part end? Let's see. Let's find the end of this, and then we can move it around. Great. So if we look at this from this perspective, it's a little bit easier to see. And don't worry about this part so much, as you don't have to change anything in there. So what we'll see is we have a div class. This is all from Softr from here to here. And then from here to here, closing it out. Then we have our iframe here, which is actually going to end here. So I can push that down as well. So you can see the beginning is here for the iframe. We just added in the source, which is the URL for our workflow link. And then we have the end of the iframe, and then the start of the script, and then the end of the script. One thing you can do after I'll show you what this looks like and the differences between the two is to take off this border. So let's publish this and then we'll just see, it will look a little bit weird because we'll have two workflows on top of each other, but you'll be able to see the differences between these two. So I kind of messed them up because of adding these two together, but don't worry about it so much right now. But what I want to show you is how to get off this border if you don't want it. So the way that you can take the border off is by saying frame border 0 in the style. So if we go back into the code here for this particular one that we're working on, and we look into the iframe where it says style height and then it says source, just after the style height 100% and the quote here, we're just going to add a space and then we're going to say frame border and then we're going to say 0. And you can actually see this if you go back to the Learning Center article about embedding on your site. If you actually look at the code from the other ones, and I was noticing when I was playing with this that this one looked really nice because it didn't have that frame around it or that border around it. And so I was just looking at why that was the case, and I could see that it says frame border equals 0. So I tried putting that inside of my code that I wanted to do here, and it worked fine. So I'm just going to go back in here. I'm going to say frame border equals and then 0. And if we have that and we publish that now, we'll be able to see that that is going to be updated here as well. So now when we refreshed it and came over here to our workflow, we can see that that frame border has gone away. So that is how you're able to embed a Gavel workflow into your Softr website or application. I'm just going to go in and delete that one that we just made and keep it nice and clean on my side here. Great. Now I quickly wanted to show you how I was able to get this part down here to look like this and be clickable. But one thing would be how to, before we get to that section, is how to connect that page we created to this DIY solutions page so that this opens up as a modal. So let's go over that quickly as well. So the first thing we did was we created our workflow in Gavel and we updated the CSS to take off the header. Then we came into Softr and we created our page where we actually embedded this particular workflow into a block on the page. Now, how to connect this page to our main page so that somebody can click on it and access that workflow is to then go back to our first page, so our DIY solutions page in this particular case, go into that section where you want it to be linked to that page and opened as modal. When I say a modal, that just means how it is not opening up as a separate page, but it's staying on the same page and opening it up in a modal, which is this section here, which can be resized to be smaller or larger if you'd like. So if we go back in here, we can click on the section where we want to have it click. And then we can go into, let's say, copyright, for example, into this first section here, where we want this one to open up to that copyright application page that we created. So the way that we would do that, I'm just going to take it off for now to show you. So this is our link. I'm saying free for this link. I'm going to say add action. And instead of saying open page, I'm going to go down and say open modal. When you say open modal, you can find the copyright application page that we created, and then you can make this modal small, medium, large, or full size like this. So I like it to be nice and big, and I like them to be the same across the board for all of my different modals that I open up. So let's go ahead and publish this. And then we're going to go into see how you're able to open that up into that modal. So that's how you're able to create the page, create the embed, and then have that page link to this section here where you want it to open up. Finally, I'm just going to quickly go over this section here where I was mentioning that you can have this from being an Airtable, because the reason why I want to go over this is in order to create this kind of flow here, you would need a paid plan for Softr. If you don't have a paid plan for Softr and you just want to kind of check it out and play with it a little bit, it's easier, not easier actually, it's harder to do it this way, but there's more steps this way. But what you can do is you need an Airtable account and you need to set it up to where you have different rows and sections for your app. And let's say in my case here, I have the name of the app, I have a posted date, I have the link to the app, and then I have the price, the image and then a tag for each of these. And then I have an app description that looks like this. And then I have this particular section linked to an app creators page. And then I have, these are just kind of lookup fields that will show me this information, which is the app creators, let's say, bio and their picture and whatever else. And then if I have any comments that are on this page, and this is actually linking to a different page for this comments, but I would be able to see which page or record that they commented on. So what you would need to do if you want to have this type of section here is that you would need to have your Airtable account. You need to build out that table to have those different pieces and elements that you want to show up in the list page and the list details page, which looks like this. And then you would need to go into Softr and you would need to create a list page or a list block. So we'll go over here to dynamic and then say list, and then you can choose from any of these different options here. In the case that I have shown over here, that's this one here where it says list with deletable elements, vertical cards. So you would click on here. And then you would go in and select your data source. So you would need to connect your Airtable account either through a personal access token or an API. They are deprecating the API, so make sure you use a personal access token. You would choose your base, which in my case is called personal website demo. Then I would choose my table that I want to use. So in this case, I want to use my apps table here. And then what I need to do is go through and finish all of these other sections. So I need to make it to where what they're sorted by is, let's do app name A to Z. And then I need to make sure that there's an empty state message or whatever else. And then we can go into content, and it's going to try to help me match things up. So this all categories is referring to this top section here. So I can actually just take that off. For this all categories section over here, I can make sure they're filtered by their tags. So I can say tags, and then that's going to sync with the options if they get deleted or updated here. And then I can say that I can take off this, for example, if I want to. I can make this a drop down instead of a tag. I can also change how this looks. So I can update the styling on this section as well. I can also go down and map all of the different fields. I can take off anything I want or add anything I want. So here, this image looks great. The name of the app looks good. And then if I wanted to take off this label, I could, or I can put whatever I want. Let's say I wanted to put somebody's name or whatever else. Here, let's say on the bottom where it says the paragraph, etc. I'm actually going to just put the price of the app, and then you can put a label if you want, and then you can update the see more button like this if you want here. If you wanted to add any other sections or like an action, for example, this add record is referring to this section here. So I'm going to actually just take that off. And then if I wanted there to be item buttons, which is on each individual item here, which in my case, I added a go to button. I could say add item button and then decide what I want to have happen. In this case, you want to open page and have a list details page. So in order to have a list block that opens to anything, you need to also create an app details page or a list details page. So you have a separate page that you create where you have the block be a list details page. In this case, I liked this one with an image slider. So then you would just do the same thing where you go into your source, you choose the same Airtable base and the same table, and then you just map the content over where you want it to go. So I'm just going to delete that for now and go back to our DIY solutions page where we have our list block that we're going off of. Now, when I was doing the actions, I would go then into this section and say open page and then open that to the app details page that I just created. Now you can then go through and make all these styles different. You can go through and you can change like in my case, I added some borders, different colors and different shadows around each of these sections. I changed how these buttons appear to be more square, for example. So you can do lots of customizations. And once you're done with all of this, you can publish that. And what it would look like at the end of the day is this section here where now we have our embed where we had it to where it's directly within here from the custom code option. And then we also have it to where you can do this free version where you have a free Airtable account, for example, and a free Softr account. And then you have your links to your workflows actually just here into the Airtable sections, so that when somebody says go to, they're taken over to the list details page where they can go to the actual workflow from this section after they've had a chance to do some more reading about it. So overall, the flow would be that somebody would go to your website. Let's say you're a lawyer and you have a practice that covers things like copyright, entertainment law, and so on, but you have some DIY solutions for your clients. You have this page, they can go directly into it here. You could have a payment page here with your Stripe integration from Gavel. You can have them be at the different pricing tiers and so on, and have them search through and go through all of your workflows here. So that is all for this video. I hope it was useful. I go over how to actually create this website with Softr in the silver course. And then I go into deeper how to actually build out these legal products with Gavel in the gold course. So if you want to check those out, you can go to cormamacademy.com. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.